COVID-19 recovery, a suggested yoga program compiled by Iyengar Yoga UK Therapy Committee. Hello, my name is Sheila Haswell and I'm currently the chair of the Therapy Committee of IY UK. The film you're about to see was recorded as a presentation by the Therapy Committee for part of a charity event which was organised in May 2020 by Uday, Bhosale to raise money for the NHS Trust. The intention of our presentation was to share ideas about how to help anyone who is recovering from this virus using yoga techniques. We know that everyone will have different symptoms and different fears and worries, so various options are given and these are meant as guidance only. We took advice from those with experience and we particularly thank Abhijata Iyengar for all her guidance in the way she has been teaching her online classes around the world, asking us to take support and be aware of the responses to what we are doing. We thank Lois Steinberg for her great respiratory sequence, which was shared generously. Some of her work has been incorporated into this presentation. We also checked our sequence and suggestions with both Gulnaz Dashti and Stephanie Quirk. Both have much experience in therapy work in Iyengar Yoga. And of course, we acknowledge that all of the supported asanas you will see are the results of decades of Guruji and Gitaji's creative developments of yoga through the medical classes in Pune. I particularly thank those teachers here in the UK who shared their experiences of recovery from this awful virus. It was invaluable for us to understand how to proceed. And I thank the Therapy Committee members. On the screen today, you will see demonstrating the asanas Lorraine McConnon, Linda Purvis, Edgar Stringer, and Larissa McGoldrick. And behind the scenes were Judith Van Dop and Elaine Martin. I want to make it clear that for students who are seriously ill or have many complicated symptoms, then a senior teacher or where possible, a therapy teacher should be consulted. We are not rewriting the rules of who can teach therapy. Our presentation may help a lot of people who are able to go through this work for themselves. But if you are a teacher, then you should be sure that you know what can be taught under your insurance and at your certificate level. We refer you to the document on the IY UK website entitled Teaching to Your Certification Level. Finally, this sequence is not comprehensive or exhaustive. We are continually learning new things, but at this point in time, what we offer seems to be very effective for helping those who have had the virus. Be safe and be sure you teach and practice safely. We hope the presentation will be informative and helpful. Namaste. Welcome to this presentation, which is by the Therapy Committee of IY UK. And although I'm the one that's starting off, and I'm probably going to be the screen that pops up the most on the presentation today, there are going to be 4 other members of the committee that you'll be seeing, and they will be presenting some of the asanas. So we've got Linda, Lorraine, Larissa and Edgar. You'll be seeing them up on the screen. 2 more of our committee, they've helped with the preparation, but they're not on screen today because of intermittent Wi-Fi connection. So that's Judith Van Dop and Elaine Martin. They're also part of our team. And of course, well, Uday's been part of our team in order to get this organised. So thank you, Uday. So Uday was the one who had the idea for this whole event this weekend. And when we came up with this idea, it was absorbed into the weekend's events. And there's a lot more things I need to tell you, but I think in the spirit of Iyengar Yoga and Patanjali Yoga, we're going to start with the invocation to Patanjali. So you need to sit yourself. So I'm actually sitting up on a chair because of where my camera is. You only see chin upwards or the top of my head if I'm on the floor. So it's up to you where you sit, whether you're sitting up, sitting down on the floor, but the spine has to be lifted. So please sit yourself straight. See that the legs have a firmness. The firmness of the legs creates a base for the spine to lift. So bring the lower spine into the body and up. With the hands down by your sides, activate the lift and opening of the chest area. Widen the collarbones, but watch you don't close the back body. And then join the palms for preparation for the invocation. Now, if you don't know the invocation, it's fine just to sit quietly while we go through this. And because of the nature of the Zoom, then the only voice you'll hear besides your own is mine, and you'll just have to put up with that. It's the way it is. So join in your own space. But first of all, maintaining this height, keeping the throat soft, and eyes back. The screen tends to pull us forwards all the time. Go back, take your awareness to the back body, to the back of the head, and then from here, close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, let all your senses be drawn inwards. As the eyes go back, the ears are drawn in. Release the tongue. Let go backwards from the skin. As all of the senses are drawn into the center of the head, release them from the head to the heart, which remains lifted. The heart center lifted, the awareness of the head bowing down towards the lifted heart. Let a softness come to your breath. Soft, quiet, even inhalations and exhalations. So always with the activity that we have to put in to get into these meetings, the brain becomes rather busy. Now let that quietness come. Let go of thoughts. Let go of previous actions. Be in this moment. Now be ready to begin. And as I said, you can join in with me or sit quietly. Om. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidhyakena yopakarotam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi apahu purushakaram shankachakrasitaharinam Sahasra shirasam shvetam pranamami Patanjalim Harihi Om. Keeping that inward quality, the lift of the trunk, bring your head down, eyes are still closed. Release your hands to your legs and then raise your head. And then allow the eyes to open. Okay. So we're about to begin. And just to let you know that I have got some notes here. And the reason is we're a team offering this. And so I have to stick to what we're doing, because if I just go ad-libbing, then it throws everybody out. So you have to I apologize for if you see me looking down at times. I'm just checking that we're going in the right place. So why do we think that we can do this presentation? Well, what we're aiming to do is to give some guidance as to how to help with your own practice or helping others when they have suffered from the COVID-19 virus, which we know is out there. So it's a new virus. It has effects in many different ways with different people. We're still learning a lot about it. In order to be the best help that we can, we've taken advice from others. So first of all, Abhijata Iyengar, she answered some questions when she was doing the course in America. And she gave some clues about working in these difficult times, saying that we have to be aware of our bodies, we've got to be accepting of situations, we've got to see what our restrictions are, and we've got to work within that. We've got to acknowledge that we're not just physically now contained in our spaces, but that affects our mind and our emotions too. And that when our normal props have been taken away, for instance, our family, our yoga community, our studios, our work colleagues, the things, our routines that we do normally, when these are taken away, we should turn to the props in yoga and use them so that we don't put full 100% effort into everything, but she said 80% effort, 100% awareness in what you're doing in these times. So I'll mention a little bit later on in the summary some of the things that she mentioned, in particular about working with this recovery from this virus. We've also been looking at the advice that's given in the respiratory guidelines from Lois Steinberg. If you haven't seen that booklet, you can get it from the IYUK website. Certainly for teacher members, it's there. I think it's for all members, but check the IYUK website for Lois Steinberg's respiratory sequence. Now, she did say that although this is a respiratory sequence to keep the whole respiratory system healthy, if you are suffering and you're recovering, it's only the first few asanas. Some of the others would probably be too strong until you're a little further down the way of recovery. So, of course, everything in there is valuable for the respiratory system, but we are looking particularly how you're going to help the students that come to you, or if you have this virus, how to help yourself in those early days. We also spoke to Gulnaz Dashti in Pune and to Stephanie Quirk, who spent a lot of time in Pune but is now in Australia, and we've had invaluable advice from them too. And then importantly, we've taken account from several of our UK teachers who have suffered with the coronavirus, and they have generously shared their experiences, and that's partly what we want to share with you as well. What they went through, how they learned from this, and, you know, in particular, for instance, not being able to get on your mat at all in the beginning. So as a yoga practitioner, that's often a little distressing, because normally we can do something, but some of them said no, it just completely floored them. So we want to share this with you, and this is why we feel that we can share this with you, because we've taken advice from some of these people with a lot of experience in this field. So today we're going to be saying you have to work safely. We can't see you all. You're in your own spaces. We don't know what props you've got. What we'll be doing is some presentation, showing the poses, and there'll be some participation for those who want to. But the thing is, if you are currently ill, especially with this respiratory condition, then you have to pay even more attention, just not to go through this like you have to fit everything in. It may be not the right time to do all of it. So we're going to begin. There's more for me to say, but I'll say it as we're going. We're going to begin with a short practice that you can join in with me, but I want to be very clear. This is not recommended for the people who are recovering from coronavirus in the early stages. This is for you to get a feel for how asana works in your body and how it connects with the breath. So this is it's an investigation for each of you. So what I'd like you to do is to come up to standing. Those who are struggling with standing and need to sit, then by all means stay seated, and let me see if I can be seen here. So come up to standing, have the feet apart, and be in Tadasana. So the feet apart to bring stability so that you're not swaying in the pose. It brings a firmness. Use the legs in order to give lift to the body, because everything up here depends on what is below. So from the feet, through the legs, to the pelvis, the pelvic floor is the floor for the lower trunk. The diaphragm is the floor for the chest area. So all of these have to be in place, and then extend the arms down. Now your experiment is not just to listen to me or not just to stretch your arms and legs. Get yourself in this position. Now for a few moments, watch your breath. Some of you will find that's a very easy thing to do. For others, it might be a little bit more difficult. Where does it move? You don't need to give the answers except to yourself. What is the direction of the movement of the breath? Can you identify that? So what tends to happen is there's an upward downward movement of the breath. So obviously there's some movement to the sides, but the overall feel is upward downward. Take the arms above the head, Urdhva Hastasana, palms facing one another. Observe your breath. There should be a feeling that it becomes longer, taller, probably a little narrower. Stay with your breath. Don't be worried whether you've got your arms as far back as you would if we were doing Urdhva Hastasana for the arms. Do it for the breath. Now bring your arms to the sides. The breath changes. Now pay attention to extending your arms further out to your fingers. The breath changes. There's a wideness, a width to the breath. It doesn't go up so much, it's a little bit more horizontal. And bring your arms down. Now the next bit is a little more subtle. Urdhva Hastasana, feel the breath. Turn the palms to the front. There's a change. It's more subtle than taking your arms out wide. Try again, bring the arms this way. When you turn the palms forward, there's a widening in the diaphragm, lower rib region. There's a sense of some width. Bring the arms down. Now to change again, Garudasana arms. So one arm beneath the other, wrap around, bring the fingers together. And in this Garudasana arm position, again, see what happens. So the arms, they stop the breath going up. So the breath becomes horizontal. But feel it's more horizontal in the back body. There's very little opening in the front. The sternum has to stay lifted. Change the grip. Other direction. All of this Abhijata went through us 2 weeks ago. Through with us. And release. So you can see that as we change, it's not just the arms, it's the position. So we're going to look at a pose that involves the legs now. And please don't do this if it's a menstrual cycle. You can do the arms only. And anybody who's compromised for it's Utkatasana, if it's a compromised pose for you, then don't do this pose. So when we bring the arms up, we know we lift and the breath becomes taller. But then when you come for Utkatasana, what happens is the lower part of the lungs also get extended. So there's a tallness in the body. And then release. Now one more asana we're going to look at, and it's Utthita Trikonasana. And you can take a brick or you can do with your hand on your leg. I'm not jumping, I've got injury on my leg. So we're going to go to, I want you to watch first, then you get a chance to do. So, excuse me, I'll just take one layer off so that you can see the body. So watch me first of all. If we go quickly to Trikonasana, we don't often pay attention to what the trunk is doing. We think about where the arm is going. And what tends to happen is there's a dropping and a closure on the side. But instead, we need to get length on this side of the body. So when there is length on this side of the body, it changes how your Utthita Trikonasana is, but also it changes how the breath is. Now, what I'd like you to do is to go to Trikonasana right side, those who can. Utthita Trikonasana right side. And for Utthita Trikonasana right side, just go quickly. Don't worry about what I just showed you. And just go quickly into the pose and observe the breath. And you'll see when you go on the right side, it's like the breath is there on the left rib cage, left side of the body. The right side feels shorter. So the words Abhijata used were, there's a flood on one side of the trunk, there's a drought on the other side. So come up. Now you raise the right arm high and lift that side of the body. Now don't put the arm down. Feel as though you extend the rib cage to come down. Come into the pose. Reach out. Once you've reached the body out horizontally, just lower the arm without shortening the right side and see the breath now has access to the right side of the lungs, not just the left side. So by what we do in our practice, we can change where the breath has access to in the body. Come up. Turn the feet to the other side for completeness. This is the last pose you're doing in this section. So quickly go down, just observe again, what is the feeling when we go on this side. See how when we focus just in going into the pose, we don't see the breath, but then when we observe it, we think, it's not even, something is wrong. So come up, raise the left arm high, left arm, yeah. And then reach out, come into the pose, reach out in the pose, extend the body, reach. And when the body becomes horizontal, lower only the arm, don't shrink that left side. And once again, feel the movement of the breath. And then bring yourself up. Join the feet. And we're back to, I'm sorry, my screen's jumping a little bit. I think my husband's on the internet upstairs. Okay, you can come to sitting again because we're going to be doing a little bit more for you to observe now. So just a couple of things to mention. The respiratory system is what is compromised with this COVID-19 virus. And the respiratory system, it has the ability to absorb the oxygen, it captures the energy in the form of oxygen, and it provides it to all the cells in the body through the circulation. If the lungs are not functioning, then all the different areas in the body are going to suffer. They're not going to function. So we have to be, what we're going to be doing here is see that we are giving the body, the breath, the chance to do its job properly for the sake of the whole of the system. So next we're going to look at some of the therapy team doing some of the poses. Now we're not going to ask you to do all of these with us because there just isn't time. And there's a section later on that we think is going to be fairly new for many of you, and we want to put some time into the practice there. So these first bits, you can observe, see what they're doing, see what we're saying about them. Of course, it's up to you whether you join in, but you might miss out if you're doing the practice right now. So let's go to the first screen of it's Lorraine to start with. And Lorraine has got Chris with her, and she's going to be showing Adho Mukha Virasana with the body supported fully on the bolsters in front. So come into the pose. So you'll see that what we have here is the blanket between the buttocks and the heels, but the buttocks have to be down. The buttocks should not be coming up, so the weight doesn't go into the knees, and there should be, with the pelvis down, elongation of the trunk. So the spine is lengthening. Now, you don't go dragging the body forward if the hips move. It's more of a lengthening forward. Now, if Lorraine was working with a student in a class, she would, and it was a problem with the lungs, she would place her hands on the back of the rib cage. Now, she's not putting force here. This is a touch in order that the student can breathe into her lungs. So she'll be asking Chris to breathe into the hands, just to feel the breath where the hands are. Now, the problem is you might be on your own, you can't do this. So a suggestion is that you come up, before you go into the pose, you wrap a blanket in this manner. Go forward once again. And then this blanket just has a touch to the back body, and you can feel, so then Lorraine doesn't need to touch, because if you're there and you don't have a helper with you, then you can feel the breath. The touch is there given by the blanket. As Abhijata said, use the props now for comfort, for support, for helping to teach you. And then Chris can be in that pose. So the person who is stressed, struggling, not well, this is a really comforting pose to be in. Now, don't worry if you can't kneel down in this manner. In a little while, we'll show you the alternative. So there will be an alternative, but we're going to complete this bit first. So we stay with Lorraine's screen now, because we're coming to the next stage, which is Parshva Adho Mukha Virasana. And in Parshva Adho Mukha Virasana, the word Parshva means to the side. So it's the same action going forward, and what Lorraine is going to do, you'll see now how she's getting herself into the pose, but she'll be facing. If she's facing you, it means that you see a different direction. So the props are being prepared, and then same action of knees apart, and you can take the knees a little wider to give a little more space in the pelvic region, in the groins. And then instead of coming forward, Lorraine is going sideways over the leg, come into the pose. And what happens now? The side of the trunk, Lorraine's gone to her right side, her left side rib cage is opened and expanded. So a little like we did in Utthita Trikonasana, one side gets a little bit more attention than the other. We shouldn't ignore the right side, but the left side gets more length, more opening. Now in this pose, the back body has to be parallel to the ceiling. It's not a rolling action. It's a parshva to the side, so the body is swinging to the side. And while the body goes to the right side, that left leg has to don't push the knee so much further, but take the thigh out so the groin opens, because there's a lot of vessels in the groin area that need to get the space. And then, of course, Lorraine will go to the other side, but right now we're going to be showing, I'm not sure if we can show both sides now, so we'll show the Parivrita Adho Mukha Virasana. So in the Parivrita, again, same leg position. You know, when you have this virus, you can be very tired. So we're repeating like 3 poses in the same. Actually, it would be better if you were still on the bolster, Lorraine. Is that possible? Oh, no, it's okay. Continue. No, you're fine. And then you'll see one arm comes underneath and the head onto the bolster. So the head is not dangling. It's in line with the trunk. And as this right arm comes underneath and stretches, then the left arm can stay at the side or even go along the back body. So there's a little bit more opening. So you can use, it depends how you can work with your arm there, but you can see the turning action. This gives a stronger action now on the intercostal muscles, and it's gently, we hope, gently opening the whole of the rib cage area for more access to the lungs. And then if we can come, thank you, Lorraine, we're going to go to the next screen where we'll have Linda. Next screen, Uday, for Linda. And Linda is showing what do you do to do these poses if you cannot kneel on the floor. So maybe you can't kneel on the floor because you've got knee problems or back problems, or you've got arthritis in your ankles, many reasons. Or maybe you're just too tired to get on the floor. So come forward, Linda. So it's Pavanmuktasana, but it's done in the same manner as that kneeling forward extension. There are other variations, but we're showing our simple actions at the moment. And again, in this pose, you don't want the body to be too rounded. So the front body should elongate. The front body should elongate along that bolster. And arm position can either be forwards over the head, but for some people that might even put a little too much strain. So you can see Linda has the support there for the arms, which gives a horizontal width so that the breath can move into the sides of the lungs. Interestingly, talking with our colleagues who've had the COVID virus, they said that one of the things they really wanted was to feel the breath in their side lungs. It was like there wasn't enough space in their lungs and they wanted to get that movement there. So now we'll go from Pavanmuktasana forward. Linda will show the pose Parshva, the same as we did when you were sitting. So Parshva, it's lovely when you've got somebody bringing the props for you. So for Parshva, the chair now has to move. So the chair in front, if you were at home and you've got 4 dining chairs or 4 yoga chairs, you just put one in front and one each side, and then you move without having to move the chairs. But for ease of seeing, Linda's using the 2 chairs. So she's done exactly as Lorraine did. Basically, this pose is turned to the side, and the hip from the side where she is turning to has to be pinned down, but the rib cage on the opposite side, away from us, gets length. So Linda, if you can just take the chair to the other side, and then we can see the length. And of course, if you are suffering, yes, get somebody to do the moving for you. Or like I said, just set it all up so that you've got at least to do in the pose. Now you can see how that side body gets lengthened, but the whole anterior trunk is resting on the bolster. The forehead is also on a blanket so that you can breathe easily, and also so the neck is free. Now in this Parshva, if you wanted to turn the head, you would turn the head away from, I think you'd turn the head the other, is the other way possible, Linda? This gives just a little bit more length. You'd have to experiment depending on the condition of your neck, but you don't have to have the head facing forward. And now if we can bring Linda back to the chair in front, she's going to show that the Parivrita action is also possible here on the bolsters. So as you get it, so in the beginning, you might find all you can do is the going forward, maybe a little bit to the side. But as you're improving, now you take the arm across underneath, take the shoulder onto the support, but make sure the blanket is higher so the head is up and not dangling. And you can see there Linda's holding the chair back. It gives a little stability, especially because you're on those softer bolsters. And of course, we'll leave Linda's do the other side. The screen can come back to me for a moment. So the poses that we're going to look at next. So just to recap, those ones we would say, those asanas are the ones that really you're going to go to. See how you feel in those poses first. Now the next few, they'll be good for some people. Some of the feedback we got was standing poses were not tolerated at the beginning at all because the people who were suffering with this virus, their legs they felt completely unattached, like they had no control. So these next few poses though may well be good for some people. One person said these gave her a lot of help in the recovery. So we're going to the screen now for Edgar. And you'll see Edgar is in Adho Mukha Svanasana. And he's lucky he's got the ropes. You might not have the ropes. Don't worry, we'll show you something else in a moment. But in working in the ropes in this way, and especially head must be supported. But in this way, he can stay longer in the pose. So we're getting a lot of opening through the whole side body, through the chest region. The sternum gets extended, the armpits are opening. There's a lot of length, but we should not then be working to get more length, but more to be in the pose, to accept the length that is there. But of course, it might not be possible to do this. You might not have the ropes. So if we could move to Larissa. Larissa's doing Adho Mukha Svanasana with the hands lifted, still the head supported. And it's a free pose, except the supports are at the wall. And of course, this one is more tiring than the rope. So if you're doing this pose, it may be that you can stay a minute, rest a minute, stay a little bit more, and do it a few times. But for both of these, if the head is just too heavy in that early stage of your recovery, then don't do these head down ones. There's other versions in a moment where the head will be supported horizontally rather than head down. If we can come back to Edgar on the screen now. Now Edgar's still in the rope, but he's got a chair. Uttanasana, head supported. You need to get your legs vertical. You need to get the legs underneath the hips as much as possible, but there should be a feeling of length in the body. From the front pelvis, elongation forward, head supported. And notice he's not pulling with the arms. He's made the extension, come into the pose, and then it becomes a restful pose. Now, though I'm moving you fairly quickly through these screens, for yourself, if you're doing this, you would stay a longer time. If you're recovering, you'd have to build up the timing that you can stay in these poses. Let's go back to Larissa, who is now in Uttanasana, but she has her buttocks at the wall. Now, don't allow the legs to bend though, Larissa. I know you worry about hyperextension, but keep the buttocks lifting up. And she's taken a bolster support there for the abdomen. But of course, this pose can also be done with the head supported. So rather than the bolster being for the abdomen, the head supported and the buttocks have to go on lifting up the wall. Now we move to Lorraine. So you don't have all the supports. You just want to do Uttanasana. It can be a dining chair, a sofa, a shelf, whatever you've got that's stable. Uttanasana, head supported. The forehead can be on the arms as Lorraine is showing. But what we're doing is we're getting some length. She's also showing now that it doesn't matter what the height is. You take the height that supports you. But what you mustn't do in this pose is allow the abdomen to hang downwards. There's a length forwards, not a dropping downwards in the pose. And then if we come to Linda, you'll see even more fully supported. So vertical legs, and she's got the abdomen fully supported. You'll notice the roll there in the groin, because that area has to be maintained upwards and not sinking, and also the head is supported. And you'll see now that she has, the blanket can also be put on the back in the same way we did earlier, which just brings awareness to the breathing of the back of the body. So for those people who find their head is too heavy to do those Adho Mukha poses, then it can come in this horizontal way and the head is supported horizontally. Now, the next one, it's not necessarily a recommendation that we're going to ask you to do. Well, Linda's just showing here that the head can also be turned. It doesn't have to be head down, but you have to watch that you don't put strain through the neck. But then, Linda, if you could bring yourself up and go to the wall in the corner. we're putting this in, it's not in the program that, in Lois Steinberg's program, but one of our teachers said this helped her a lot in recovery. But we would not recommend this for anybody who does not have extension in their body, because if you have tight hamstrings, if you have sore back, this is going to be a little extreme to do. But we're popping it in there because one of the teachers we consulted said this was really very helpful for her, probably not in the early stages, but in later stages of recovery. Thank you, Linda. Now, if we can go back to Edgar, we're still on the standing practice, and you'll see that Edgar is doing Prasarita Padottanasana with the head supported. Try not to use your arms too much, Edgar. So he's not using a lot of force through the arms, but by having the arms wide, it brings width in the torso, in the trunk, in the chest area. But the legs here, they have to support you. What you've got to watch out for is that you don't get to the point where your legs become shaky. If they become shaky, you have to stop. It means that the energy is not there. So the legs have to be a firm support and not trembling in the pose. And now if we go to Larissa on the next screen. And Larissa is doing the same Prasarita Padottanasana, but with chest support. So if you have a chair, a bolster, a blanket, it might not be a chair, it might be maybe a coffee table, as long as it's not a glass coffee table with some props on the top. Maybe some of the furniture you have around, but basically she's supporting her chest, and the head can go forward or to each side depending on how your neck feels. The idea is if you put your head to one side, you should be trying to put the head also to the other side for some time. But if we have a crick in the neck, then you have to work out what supports you need there. If we can come now to the screen with Linda. And Linda, you can see, is also taking full anterior support as she did in Uttanasana, but the legs are wide. When the legs are wide, we get more spreading in the pelvic groin region. And you'll see she's standing on some blocks because of the height of the table. Then what we don't want is the body to sort of be climbing upwards. It has to be lifted at the pelvis so the body can extend forwards. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the standing section that we were doing. So come back to me on the screen for a moment. And we are saying, we've put those in there because they might help some of you, but don't, if you're helping another, find out how they are. Don't assume that those standing poses are going to be the ones that they are happiest to do. So we're going to show you in a moment some postures that you are going to be able to join in with. But I wanted just to mention, first of all, why these postures that we're showing you are going to be so beneficial. And I do have some notes, but I can't remember where I put them. We've got the circulatory system, but you also have a lymphatic system in the body. So all of the movements that we do, the physiology of asana is that it creates space, extension, vertically, horizontally creates space, it moves the body. The blood circulation is going to be moving anyway because the heart is pumping, but the lymphatic system will depend on the movement of the body. And you will all be very aware of lymph nodes because of everything that comes up about health on our news. But we have a lot of lymph nodes, lymph vessels. So we've got sternum, collarbones, armpits, inside the lungs, but also groins, abdomen. All of these areas have a lot of lymph nodes. And if we stay sitting still, closed for too long, the lymph doesn't get to move around so easily. It becomes a little stagnant. Now, bear in mind that the lymphatic system is part of your immune system, So the lymphocytes are going to be out there in your lymphatic system fighting this disease. Then we need the lymph to be active, not just your circulatory system and your respiratory system, but also the lymphatic system. So now what we're going to do is show you some poses which are called Samashrayi, Shreyi, get the pronunciation, Samashrayi, Upashrayi, and Adho Mukha. And we're going to show you different supports. Now, for this first section, please watch. And then there's going to be a time where we give you an opportunity to set up your supports, and then there'll be an interactive section where you join in with us. So if we can first of all come to Linda. Linda is setting up for Samashrayi with a Viparita Dandasana bench. So you can see the props she has. She's sitting on a blanket with the support of the Viparita Dandasana bench. You might know it as a back stretcher or a back bender. So this is how the posture would generally be taught in a restorative remedial class, and certainly in the medical classes in Pune. So Dandasana, don't go wide, Linda. Dandasana, feet a little apart. So feet a little apart, yeah. And she's got her hands on blocks at the side. The importance here is sitting up. The legs have to have the earth element of being anchored down. And sometimes, we're not doing this today, but sometimes putting the feet with a heavy weight against the feet can give a more of a sense of anchoring the legs. But we're trying to give you a practice that you can do on your own if you're ill. So we're not saying go and lug heavy weights around and prop that up. So this is the beginning support. We'll show you later the Upashrayi. We're just showing the prop support to begin with. And the bricks are there to help her to lift the side body. If we can come to Edgar. So Edgar doesn't have the back stretcher, but what he's got is 2 dining chairs, because that's what we think is possible. Lean a little forward, Edgar, and let's just see the bolster. He's got 2 dining chairs and a bolster sitting up against the middle legs of the dining chair so it doesn't slip underneath the chair. And then he's got his sacrum right back against the bolster. So sit up. Again, he has the bricks. But because the dining chair is there, if you don't have the bricks, the elbows can go onto the seat of the chair also to help lift the sides of the body. And he's got props behind him so that when we eventually do the reclining in a little while, we'll go there. Let's go onto the screen for Lorraine. So we now see that Lorraine is working with the sofa. The thing is, you might just not have the energy to go and pick all this stuff up. So your sofa's there in the room, sit on a height, lower back against the sofa, upper body supported. The hands, again, can be down on the bolster that she's sitting on or can be to the sides. Now, I want you to be aware in this pose that in front of Lorraine, there is a chair. Don't do it yet, Lorraine. Just be aware of the chair. Edgar also had a chair in front of him. Linda had a bench. So what we're going to do now is give you time to go and decide what you don't have to do. You can watch, but you're going to, if you wish, go and set up some props for your back body now. So you can sit up, chairs, if you've got benches. If you haven't got either, maybe try for a coffee table, sofa, set yourself up. So if the screen can come back to me while everybody else is setting up, make sure when you set up your props that in front of you, you have something that you can go forward onto. So what we'll be doing in a moment is leg variations. And hopefully you can all join in with this. So the leg variations will be part and parcel of this action. And the idea is that if you're tired, you're exhausted in these, in the recovery phase of your after the virus, then you set up this one set of equipment, you sit down, and you stay for a while in Dandasana, because just sitting up in Dandasana is already going to be helpful. And in lifting the body, you're getting movement into your chest region, shoulders back, movement into the armpit region. So we're already working on not just the blood circulation, but the lymphatic circulation. And then in a while, when I take you through these different leg positions, you'll see how we also work on the movements which are in the pelvic region, the groin region. So now we're going to go back to Linda. And Linda will come to Upavishtu Konasana. So same seated pose, you can all be doing this. Sitting upright, the upright position, Samashrayi, and there's an evenness and uprightness to this pose. The legs are apart. Again, in studio settings, somebody can put a weight for each of the heels to give firmness to the legs, but you have to bring that firmness to your legs. Don't just let your legs dangle. You can bring by stretching the heels and pulling the toes up. And then from this, now you would stay in Samashraya, the upright position like this, for a few minutes. But then from here, we go to what we call a reclining pose. It's called Upashrayi. So what Linda is doing, she's going to recline backwards. And if you've got somebody to help with the props, even better. But if not, you have to adjust those props. And the idea is that the body can recline. It's not a back bend, it's a reclining action. And you'll see now that there is a greater lift of the sternum, a bigger opening in the armpits. The head should not be thrown back, but it should be slightly back. So either the bolster or even a blanket there, but not tipped backwards. And because the legs are wide, we're now getting a lot of space in the pelvic region. And again, you wouldn't just go into this position for a few moments. You would go into this position and stay 2-3 minutes. We won't have time to show a long hold for each of you today, but hopefully in the class, you are having a go at this, sitting and curving, reclining backwards with head supported. And then when you've spent several minutes in your Upashrayi, then you would bring yourself back up to sitting, and you're going to go, still with the legs apart, to the Adho Mukha version. A lot of these are given in one of Lois Steinberg's books. I think it's the cancer therapy book, but she starts with the forward version and then upward and then backward. But basically we're doing a sequence where you include sitting up, going back, coming forward. And so Linda now has got her head on a support, and she's making the use of that wide bench by taking the arms wide. And it is also possible to support the abdomen if you feel that you need the abdomen supported in this forward pose. So what if you put one horizontal and one vertical, then the front body feels connected, not hanging in the space. So hopefully those who are doing the pose, you are able to bring yourself forward. If you've had a look on the screen, bring yourself into the pose. And now you can see that the back body again can breathe in this. The head is quiet, the neck should be soft. So we're going to move to the next screen and show Edgar. He's still on his dining chairs, but now instead of Dandasana, we've got Edgar in Swastikasana. So sitting up in Swastikasana, the Samashrayi version of Swastikasana. And again, you can, wherever you are, on your sofa, your chairs, whatever, get yourself into the upright position with crossed legs. You need to spend a little time. You have to get your hands in a position that allows you to use your arms to lift the chest. The, The arms are access into the chest region, and if your arms are too low, you just take the bricks away and put your hands to the floor, Edgar. If your hands go too low, you see it pulls the chest region downwards. Put the bricks there again and see how the chest gets lifted upwards. So if you don't have something to put your hands on, then it's better to put your arms onto the supports. Now, we're going to go from Samashrayi to Upashrayi. So now Edgar is going to recline, and he's taken the blankets and the bolsters behind, and you'll see that there's length in the neck. Now, if you observe, because he's on the chairs, he's taken the support of the blocks for the arms, so he gets more width in the chest region. So you can find out whatever support works for you. But again, try and be now in your Upashrayi version of Swastikasana. I'm saying the names a lot, so if they're not familiar to you, they're going to start getting into your repertoire. Now, I think, if I'm right, Edgar's got his glasses on. Please leave them. It's okay, Edgar. I've got my glasses on. When we're working on the screen like this, so many of us, I've been doing all my yoga with my glasses on for these Zoom sessions, and normally I take them off. So if you're doing this on your own in the practice, then you don't need to wear the glasses because you're going inward. And now from this Upashrayi, you would still keep the cross legs and the chair is in the front. Come forward. Now Edgar's got a lot of movement forward. If you do not have this movement, you pull the chair in, you bring a bolster onto the chair and you sit much more upright. So just see what it is that you have. And now if you can possibly, oh, we won't disturb the bolsters. I'll show on the other side, Edgar. So all of you take a moment, stay there for a minute, Edgar. We're staying. All of you take a moment to be in Adho Mukha with Swastikasana legs, supported. Remember, you're not trying to go to maximum in any of these. You're trying to experience the work and not be in a position where you are trying to do more and do more. And then bring yourself up, and of course it's Swastikasana. We're going to change the leg cross. Because this is a practice for you, we are going to do it with the leg change, the cross change. Now we need to tell you that one of our teachers could, so all of you being first of all in Samashreya, you're sitting up. One of our teachers who was affected by the COVID-19 virus and whose legs were very affected said she could not do the cross legs on the second side, only one side. When she did on the other side, her legs didn't want to do it and her lungs were affected differently. So you've got to read the situation at the moment that you are in this position of being unwell and trying to recover. So after the Samashrayi version, Upashrayi, come back into the reclining position, Upashrayi version. And if it doesn't feel comfortable, you need to change your supports. It's not like, oh, I was told to go back here, but my throat's hurting. This virus comes with lung problems, throat problems, cough. If you are putting your throat at strain, you're not doing any good for healing. So I think Edgar's also going to put a little bit more there just to soften the neck. Just do what you need when you're in this position so that you're able to stay a while. Now, the other thing to mention while we're doing this Upashrayi is it might be too much for some of you. Opening the chest in this manner, even though for a seasoned practitioner, this seems like not much of an opening of the chest compared with an Urdhva Dhanurasana. It might be too much when you're in the recovery phase. You won't know. You have to find out. And if you're working with another person, always ask, how do you feel? What is it like? And then give time to be in the pose. And then following the Swastikasana Upashrayi version, you would again come forward. This time, Edgar, bring a bolster and make the support higher. So I didn't ask him to do this the first round because he would have had to upset all these props there for the second round. But you see, it's a much quieter forward extension. And of course, anybody who's compromised there with the hips or the knees, you can include roll blankets or something under the outer legs. So this is making these poses work for you. For all of these postures, we have sitting up, reclining back, and coming forward. And so all of these, now Edgar's shown one leg supported, but you would obviously do both the same. But he's just making, it's fine, don't worry, Edgar. I'm just making a point. We would do same on both legs. Make sure now that you're in your Adho Mukha, because there's one more round of this Samashraya, Upashraya to come. And what you should be getting while we're going through this sequence is that there's not so much physical energy output. You're sitting, you're going up, you're going back, you're going forward. You're sitting with a different leg position. You're going up, you're going back, you're going forward. Again, you change the leg position, repeating. So there's not so much outward waste of energy. There's a lot of recovery, restorative time as you stay in these poses. Thank you, Edgar. We're going to move now to the screen with Lorraine, and this is Baddha Konasana. Now, for some people, Baddha Konasana is going to be really a complicated pose to do, so don't. If your knees are up by your armpits and you can't do this pose, then stay with the other postures. But you can see Lorraine, she's sitting on a bolster, she's got her feet together, knees are wide, and the trunk is lifting. And she's being very much like, I don't have so many yoga props, but I've got a lot of sofa cushions. So she's giving support of the back body. So wherever you are, if you're on your sofa, take note of how Lorraine is working on her sofa. But if you're still on your back stretcher or your chairs, you just repeat Baddha Konasana there where you are. It's not that you have to now get up and find a sofa. So whatever is your starting position, you find that and you move between the poses for these different leg variations. Now, of course, we're showing you Upavishta Konasana and Swastikasana and Baddha Konasana and Dandasana, but you have to do what works for you in this. Now, from sitting up, Sammashrayi, now Upashrayi. So what Lorraine has done, she's brought her sofa cushions a little forward to give support for her arms. You might not have that opportunity. My sofa is a fixed sofa, it doesn't have cushions, seated cushions. But if you've got that, then just bringing them forward gives a lot of support for the arms. And she's adjusted the support for her head. Can you see the long throat, the soft throat? Lorraine, just for a moment, just take that one away and show with the head too much back. Yeah, this is a completely wrong action. This is damaging to the neck throat region. So you need to see the support is right into the back of the neck. And now you see the softness and length of the throat region. So also we've got the thyroid, parathyroid glands in this area. And we need to see that they are functioning well. They're part of the endocrine system, the hormonal system of the body. All of that is part of your fighting system, the immune system, that's the word I'm looking for. So stay a little while in your Baddha Konasana. And of course, you can support the legs in whichever way you need to. Lorraine's done a very nice ankle support with her blanket, but you can support thighs, knees as required. And even Baddha Konasana, we're going to be going forward afterwards. So when you've done with your Upashrayi, come up and then come into a forward position with the chair, the bolster, whatever it is you have in front. So wherever you are, you can either see what Lorraine's doing or you've got the hang now of your Adho Mukha variation. So take whatever you need there. I know Lorraine is moving the chair purposefully. If you find that your chair is sliding, then you will have to put it on a support that doesn't allow it to slide. So these variations, they are mentioned in passing in the booklet. Lois says in her booklet that these Samashraya, Upashraya, Adho Mukha are all can be done because it's moving between one and another, but she doesn't show them in that program. She mentions them and refers you to one of her books. So we are spelling them out for you. Now, the other thing to mention is that some people get chronic fatigue. This illness can leave you with a huge fatigue. And sometimes when you have that fatigue, what you need to do is stay medium time in any of the poses. So not staying for a very long time and doing like 20 minutes in one of the postures, because you can find a stiffness there. So now if the screen can come back to me, and if you can all come out of your asanas, wherever you are. I hope that was helpful to you to participate in that stage, because unless you've been in a therapy course or helping in therapy classes, those might be fairly new, or at least the sequence fairly new to you. But it can be really very helpful, beneficial at this time. Now, the next section that we're going to look at are the supine asanas. And I think generally speaking, when we think of restorative, we think of lying on your back, Supta Baddha Konasana, Supta Swastikasana, Supta Virasana, all of these lying on your back poses. Now, what we want to say is that lying on your back might not be the answer. It's going to help people for sure, but it might not be the answer, because if the chest caves in and the back is pressed on the bolster or whatever props, it's going to be too hard for the lungs. So we're going through these supine poses, but you have to work out whether they work for the person who is recovering. And another word of warning, if you are a yoga practitioner, you'll know the benefit of arching backwards, and you'll know the wonderful feeling you get when you curve back over a brick. Don't do it when you've got your lungs compromised. For lungs, it's a soft, firm support for the back, not a hard wooden support. And those that tried it said they wished they hadn't. They got on the brick and it was just too much for the chest region. So now we are going to look at some of these supines, but remember, take this with for the recovering patient. Try it, but it might not be the one that's going to work. So let's go first of all to Larissa. Larissa's doing the standard Supta Virasana. Now I say standard, I mean standard restorative supine. She's sitting on the floor, bolsters behind, she's added a little bit more height. It might be that you can't sit on the floor in the same way that at the beginning of the practice, we said those who can't sit in Virasana would sit on a chair. Now, what the other thing you'll see, because there's height under the back, the bolster is supporting the back chest, there, Larissa has taken support for her arms. She's got blocks with a blanket on the top for her arms. And the reason is because if the arms drop all the way to the floor, they close the chest area too much. You have to feel a length from the shoulder to the elbow. So there's an elongation of the upper arm, and then the forearm and hand can rest down on the floor. You can also see that the head is not thrown back. We don't want the forehead thrown backwards. So there is a quietness to the face, to the brain in this pose. Now this Virasana is really good for people who have circulatory problems in the legs. You might think that it looks counterproductive, but to bend the legs in this fashion and then eventually straighten out the legs, it helps with the circulation when that's been compromised in the legs. Let's move to the next screen, which is Linda. So Linda is showing now, what will you do if you cannot go down to Supta Virasana? So first, it's for people who don't easily sit on the floor. So she's sitting on some height. but also there may be a tightness in the frontal groin region. It might just be too much effort to go back. Excuse me. So going back onto the chair support, but taking also props for the back body and the head. And Linda is, she's indicating there that it's a good idea to put the arms on a support, but the support was not put in immediately because it would hide that she's sitting on the blocks. So this, of course, can be done if, for those of you who don't have the pile of blocks, you can put another chair at each side, have your arms out wide. You can put a pile of anything that's in your house that's available to you. So it's a variation of Supta Virasana for those who are compromised going back into the full pose. And if we could then go to Larissa, or is it, oh, Edgar, are you showing? Sorry. No. So come to Larissa, who is now in the forward Adho Mukha. So she's done her Supta Virasana, and now she's moved the bolsters from behind, brought them in front, and coming forward. So again, we're doing this sense of, we go backwards, we'll go forwards. We open the front of the chest, we open the back and side of the chest. And the head can be alternated from one side to the other, staying a little while in this pose also. So this Adho Mukha Virasana is really going to become your friend when you are recovering from this horrible virus. If we can come back to Linda now, you'll see that with the props that she had, she's now coming forward. And if you haven't got a bench like this, it's okay. It's a chair in front, or your coffee table, or your sofa. You could have a dining chair behind you and a sofa in front of you. So it's the same Virasana. She hasn't come up. She stayed on the blocks. Knees are still together, feet apart. And she's coming forward in Adho Mukha Virasana, supported. And you have to work out what supports work for you, whether it needs to be head support, arm support, abdomen support, front body support. We don't need to show them all now, but you have to work out for yourselves. Let's come back now to Lorraine on the next pose. Now you can see that Lorraine is in her Supta Baddha Konasana, and I believe I'm right, Lorraine's got 2 belts on her legs. She's got one on each leg, but the belt has to come right up into the groin. It's not good to be part way down the thigh. You belt the legs right up into the groins. But the thing here is, if you are recovering from this virus, even the effort of getting the belts on might be too much. So one of our teachers said, I couldn't be bothered with the belts. She doesn't mean that she was lazy. She meant the effort was too much. She wanted to lie down. So what you do is you have your feet on a sticky mat, not on a blanket, so that they don't slide away. So you'll see also, not only is Lorraine supporting the chest, not too much height, but look how long the abdomen is. You have to move your buttocks. You can direct this, Lorraine. You have to move your buttocks away from the bolster towards the feet so that the abdominal region becomes passive. The abdomen should not be pushed up. There should be no pinching in the back. And then Lorraine has also taken blanket support for her outer hips so the legs rest. Otherwise, there's tightening that comes in the groin region. So we'll leave Lorraine for a moment in her Supta Baddha Konasana on the long bolster. Just to say before we leave her that it's possible also to have those bolsters horizontally, instead of up her spine, crossways, but you'd need several bolsters, one behind the other, and it brings a lot of width. Okay, coming to Edgar. Edgar is also now in a supine position. He's not gone for Baddha Konasana, we've gone to Swastikasana. So it might be that Baddha Konasana is just a big problem for you, that there's too much tightness in the hips and the groins, or as I said, a little too much effort in the recovery phase. But we've also got Edgar now not on a bolster. He's just on 2 folded blankets. And that's because in those early stages of recovering from the virus, it might be too much to push the chest open on the bolster too quickly. So we're giving options. You have to find out what works. So this, you can see now the chest is lifted for sure, but you can see how the abdomen is receding. It's down towards the spine. So the diaphragm gets opening. It's not forceful. And Edgar is showing with the eye cover, because for all of these, it's a good idea to stay a while and go inwards. Let the eye cover be there. You should not be in a hurry to try and go through all of these poses. You might choose one or two. And if you choose this one, then maybe you choose the pose so that you can just stay a while. And although we're not going to let Edgar stay a while because we have to get through the rest of this program, Edgar's going to come up now and show that this pose, you would finish from your supine with going forward in swastikasana again, Adho Mukha, and again, whatever bolsters, props are there, you can come forward and release the back. So because we can get very achy. If anybody's had the flu, this virus is not the flu as such, it's its own virus, but if you've had the flu, you know how sometimes your back aches. Well, here, if you go backwards and then you go forwards, you're freeing up the back body, quietening the frontal brain, giving a chance for the back body to expand and open once again. And although we're not showing the other cross legs, if you were doing this for yourself, you would then change the cross of the legs and continue. So now if the screen can come back to me for a moment. What we're going to look at next is inverted poses. I realize I'm going through this fairly quickly, but we have a 2-hour time slot. We want to present as much as we can. There will be a chance to do a little bit more. So inverted poses are really important to get back to. So what we're doing today is we're going to show how you would begin your practice, your inversion practice. And then we'll show other options for when you're better or getting better. So the first thing we're going to do, I forgot to mention something. One of the things that Stephanie mentioned when we spoke with her is that a weak circulatory system is one of the complications that might happen with this recovery, with this disease, and it's called orthostatic hypotension. And it means that the circulatory system being weak, if you go into inverted postures before you build that up again, you can suffer eyes, temples going purple. The inversions should be avoided in those cases. You have to work to build up the circulatory system in a lot of what we've been doing, and in this next pose, which is going to be Setrubandha Savasana. So we also don't know what the residual lung damage is going to be long term after this virus. So we have to prepare to work with the lungs in a softer way. We want them to open, but not to go immediately for the stronger variations. So let's have a look first at Edgar. Now, Edgar is doing Setrubandha Savasana. You might look at this if you're a practitioner and think, no, he's not. He's doing Shavasana on a couple of props. No, for some people, this might be enough. If your chest is being closed inwards, if the lungs are compromised. But what you can see, now he's taken his feet to the wall. Well, he didn't have a lot of room there. You don't have to be at the wall, but it's quite nice to anchor the legs in that manner. But importantly, his shoulders are down. His shoulders have to do the shoulder stand action. You have to be anchored at your shoulders. So the back shoulder blade is climbing up onto the bolster, and you'll see the horizontal levelness there of the region from the top thighs, the pubic plate to the diaphragm. There's not a puffing up of the abdominal region. So this might be enough for the first Setrubandha Savasana that you do, to be in this pose, chest opening and shoulders down. Let's move to Larissa. Now Larissa is showing a crossed bolsters Setu Bandha. So it's higher than the one that Edgar was doing. But again, the shoulders are down on the floor, the back chest is lifting. There's a length in the pelvic region. The thighs have to press downwards. So she's got her heels on a height because it's really hard to keep your legs anchored if you take your feet to the floor, and it can also pinch the back for some people. So the height for the feet, you have to adjust for yourselves. But again, have a look at the shoulder area, see the neck is long, the face is looking at the ceiling. One of the things that often goes wrong with this cross bolster direction is that some people put their head down but leave their shoulders floating. If your back of your head is down nearer to the crown, it's wrong. The back of the head is to be down, nearer to the base of the skull. The throat soft, going inwards towards the back of the neck, not pulled in, but releasing inwards. And the other thing to note is the brick underneath the bolster edge where the thighs are. Otherwise, the buttocks can often be a little heavy if the bolster's not firm, and it pulls you back downwards in that region. Let's move next on to Lorraine. So now we've got, it's a little higher still, and it's crossed bolsters, not crossed, but crosswise, what we call in Iyengar Yoga horizontal bolsters. And this is a really nice pose. Feet are wide, arms are wide. The head is a little further back for anybody who has tightness in the throat, but you can see the forehead is still, the face, sorry, is still looking at the ceiling. It's still the throat descending. Now the thing here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bolsters. You might not all have 7 bolsters where you are, but what we're showing is how the posture can be built up depending on what props and supports you have. So from those first 2 blankets that Edgar showed to this higher support, but you're going to be in this pose in the beginning, if your lungs are struggling, maybe a few minutes, but you're going to be in this pose maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. It's such a restorative pose for you. And then if we can come back to Edgar, thank you, Lorraine. We come back to Edgar. Oh, sorry, if we go back to Lorraine briefly, stay there, Lorraine. Can we go back to Lorraine? Just a word of warning, from this posture, you should not roll sideways to come off the props. You have to put your feet down. And probably the best one is to slide backwards in the direction of the head using the feet. The feet can come on the bolster. You can take your time coming down, but please do not roll sideways off those higher props, because in rolling sideways, you can twist the back. It's a height to come down from, and you can come to this lying back in swastikasana. Thank you. Now if we go to Edgar, you'll see that again, after doing the variations going backwards, the Setu Bandha action, this can again release the lower back, the mid back region if there's been any tension there. So Adho Mukha Swastikasana, Adho Mukha Virasana, these are absolutely going to be the poses to go to in this recovery phase. And then if you can come back to me just for a moment. I completely forgot to mention, but the thighs, if you're in a pose, Lorraine and Larissa, the last 2 postures we did, they could have weights on their thighs. So for those who are working in a remedial setting, it takes the effort out of pressing the legs down in that last pose. Now, what I want to say is, for a recovering student from the coronavirus, this is really the end of the practice, except for Shavasana, which we'll come to at the end. So Setu Bandha Savangasana, you're going to finish there and then move on to Shavasana. But what we are now showing is, well, what to do about inversions. How are you going to get back to your inverted practice? But please bear in mind, for those of you taking notes, observing here. The next pose we're doing is Shirshasana. You do not do it after Setubandha Savangasana. We showed that as where you begin your inverted practice. But now we're taking a step back and say, if you're past that stage where you've been practicing Setubandha Savangasana and it's now become part of something that is becoming familiar, comfortable to be in, then let's start going for other inversion practice. So now we're going to come to Shirshasana, and if we can go first to Larissa. So Larissa here is in her ropes. How lovely if you've got ropes available. Now the thing is, the ropes, if you haven't got them, they have to be properly set up and you have to be shown how to use them. So if you have the ropes, then how lovely, you can do this pose. Now at the moment, Larissa stay as you are, Larissa, with folded arms. She's got her head supported, but this can really be a little too much pulling and lengthening on the body. We want to create that length and that openness, but a really nice variation is to have the arms wide. So if you can take your arms wide, palms down, palms down. And what happens now is it just gives a little more width and space, but a little bit more support, so you're not hanging so much in the pose. And if you stay a while, you'll find that eventually the support on your head feels like it's pushing you up, in which case you have to have available different supports so that you can adapt. Edgar, don't go up. We'll come to you in a minute. We want to see you going up. Edgar, don't go up yet. Yeah. So this hanging in the ropes is great. The buttocks should be going up the wall towards the heels and not down the wall towards your back. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with a backache in the pose. Now, Larissa is working there with one of those rope slings, which is a padded sling, but it's using ropes. A normal rope is of course what is often done in the classes, so it doesn't have to be the padded sling. Now let's move across to Edgar. Edgar's going to show a Shirshasana done with wall support and with support of the dining chairs. Now he's got the chairs very close in to his neck, not just on the tips of the shoulders, hands on the front of the seat and his back close to the wall, and then lift yourself up one leg at a time to the wall. Once you're in the pose, your body has to go up. So then you can take your arms onto the seats of the chair and lift up. If the body is allowed to drop downwards, it's very hard on the neck and shoulders. So the body has to go upwards and the legs are also drawn upwards. This might not suit many people. If you're using one of the Indian yoga chairs, you'll need to put sticky mats on the chairs and probably blankets on top of the sticky mats. But Edgar is showing with dining chairs because maybe at home that's what you have. But see that they are even, that they're not too soft, and that they are stable. You can see he's put the chairs on sticky mats so that they don't slide. Now this of course might be too much effort, too much, you're not familiar with it. I would say with both of these Shirshasana variations, don't just go for them if you've never done them before and risk falling. One of the variations that you can always use is the wall or the corner of a room, and take your Shirshasana maybe a minute or two at a time until your strength is recovered to back to full strength. Thank you, Edgar. We're coming now to look at the Sarvangasana variations. And the first one that we'll show you, and which is very, probably very helpful to most people, is going to be the chair Sarvangasana. So we come to Linda. So Linda has set up her props there with the yoga chair. I'm saying that, yoga chair. Please don't pick any chair unless it's tried and tested. And then she comes back into the pose, taking the shoulders down and seeing that the chest is lifting. So what should not happen, she's got enough height there under her shoulders. You have to experiment to find out what is the height that you need. But she's got enough height there so that her head is back but not thrown back. Throat is soft, but you can see the back shoulders lifting. Look at the side chest. I remember in one of our conventions, Abhijata saying, the line from your upper arm to your back chest should be the shape of a letter, capital L. Now, of course, we're looking at Linda sideways on, so we're seeing the reverse, the mirror image of the L shape. But it's a vertical back body and a horizontal arm. So it's not a good idea to go too far away from the chair with your shoulders, because then everything is sloping. Now we put Linda also in Supta Baddha Konasana, sorry, in chair Sarvangasana Baddha Konasana, because it can be more restful for the legs, but also the groins open, the lower pelvic region opens. Just be careful when you do this that you don't drop your bottom onto the blankets behind you. The buttocks should always be lifting towards the heel side and not sinking onto the chair seat. So we recommend this practice. You can stay longer for those who know how to do it and for those who are with the chair. So for instance, if you are working with a student, the student might have a yoga chair and they've done Uttanasana with the head supported on a chair, but they've never done this with you with them, you probably need to wait until they're doing class with you rather than teaching them online, because you can't help support them, you can't catch them if they fall. I think perhaps we should show coming off the chair, Linda. So when you need to come from here, let the arms come out and you must come down. You don't try and sit up. So you lift yourself, slide backwards till the pelvis is on the support, the shoulders are down, and you can rest there a moment. And even this, if the chair feels in the wrong place, let your knees go out and be in Baddha Konasana. That gives you a little bit more freedom there as well. And then finally, you would, having stayed there for a minute or two, you can slide back until eventually, once your buttocks are down on the floor and your back is released, and again, you can stay here a while, then eventually you can roll to the side to come up. Next we come to Lorraine, and Lorraine is using the wall. Thank you, Linda. Lorraine's using the wall, and as you can see, she set up her Savangasana props, lots of height again, so we get that back body lifting. But she's using her feet, so the last pose had a lot of work on the arms to lift the back body. Now she's using the feet, so the last pose, it was the chair was giving support. Now we're using the legs. Once she's in, now Lorraine's put a belt on, that's optional, you can do that if you wish. And she's got her feet against the wall, and she's making the sacrum move forward. The back body has to lift up, the sacrum move forward. So whereas in the full pose, which we've come to in a moment, in the full pose, you really have to use your arms a lot to get the lift of the back body. If you're not strong, because the lungs have been compromised, if the lungs or the arms are not able to support you, this way gives support through the legs. And if you're tired and not able to stay for a while and you're just coming back to this practice, you can lower yourself down, take a break and come back up into the pose. So it's like you've got your props there. The one thing to watch out for, if you can come down for a moment, Lorraine, onto your supports, once you go up into the pose, for some people, their shoulders slip off the blocks. So don't do the slipping off, but show how to walk your shoulders back on. So place your feet, and as you go, she's pinning the shoulders down and then walking them back onto the support, because you have to get the shoulders in Savangasana position. And then if you're able, after a while and your strength is coming back, you can come from this position to coming to a straight Savangasana. And then even here with the straight Savangasana, you might want to stay a minute, put your feet on the wall, come back. You have to build up your timing until you have the strength to do what would be your regular Savangasana practice. And you would come down in the way you went up, feet on the wall, buttocks down, and slide back off the props when you're ready. And we'll come now to Edgar. And he's coming for supported halasana. So when you're ready to go up, Edgar. So if you don't have the wall there, you can roll up. But the idea is the thighs are supported. And just before you get too comfortable, Edgar, don't go so far over, just come back a little and show with more your knees supported. Come back a bit. Some people do this, it's not a good pose. The pelvis is in the wrong direction, the energy is falling backwards. So you have to lift, go back into the full pose, the right pose, lift, take the thighs all the way. You might even have to put your hands up and hold the bolster to hold it towards you so you can get the, looks like a cycling exercise. Once you get used to it, you won't need to spend so long. You'll go there more quickly. Again, the shoulders have to be properly on the props, and the back of the head, there's a length there to the back of the neck. And you'll see Edgar's put a bandage around the head, because for some people who've got a lot of issues, head, neck, throat, cold symptoms, this can be really, any of these poses can be really quite effortful, but this pose in particular, it clears the sinuses, it quietens the head, the brain, and your arms are not on the back body. It gives space on the back body to rest. Now, the one thing, only lift one leg when I ask you to do this, Edgar. The one thing that is wrong is to have the heels higher than the pelvis. Just raise the leg closest to us. If your legs are supported, but your leg is in this direction, it's the wrong support. You have to adjust the support till, go back, till the feet, the heels are lower than the hips. Remember, this is halasana. And of course, you might stay there. So for these inversions, after your Setu Bandha Savangasana, this might be the next one you learn. Then you might learn your chair Savangasana and your wall Savangasana. When they are feeling stronger, you take yourself back to Shirshasana. But then, as we know, as you come back to the practice, I might be being very obvious, but I don't know who is in the audience of this participants in this Zoom meeting today. So some of you might not have as much knowledge, awareness of the order. So when you come back to your full inversion practice, even if you're still in recovery, Shirshasana would come before these Savangasana variations. So Edgar can come down from here now. Now, I would like you to come back to me just very briefly while I explain the next stage. What we're going to do now is show prone Shavasana. So in many classes you go to, you'll be very familiar with Shavasana on your back, supine Shavasana. But right now we're going to show prone Shavasana, which can be extremely helpful for the people that are recovering with lung issues. And what we're going to do, please watch to start with, we're going to show each of them in a different prone position, and the screen will highlight them briefly while we see what they're doing. And then you're going to have 5 minutes for each of you, wherever you are in this Zoom meeting, each of you to go and set up your own prone Shavasana. And we'll do a good 5-minute prone Shavasana for you all before we conclude. So let's first go to Linda. So Linda is, she's basically face down on the mat, but she's just put a blanket underneath the abdomen. A blanket for the head so that the nose is free and that she can breathe. And the feet are turned inwards, the back thigh rolled outwards. These same actions are going to be shown in all of the screens, but there'll be different supports. So for the person who can lie happily, comfortably on their front and rest in this way, you don't need many props. And the blanket is also optional, but if your pelvis tips to the floor, it's really nice to have that blanket, which encourages that forward length of the body. Linda's now adjusting the blanket for her head, because you have to find out what works for you so that the neck is long and the face is relaxed. So this is one option. If we next come to Larissa. Now Larissa is showing an option which can be very helpful for anybody who gets backache, because the front thighs are on the bolster and the whole front body is on the bolster. It means that the blankets for the heads have to be supported a little higher than you would. Linda had one blanket here, Larissa has two. There's still a little dip in the back for Larissa, so don't change now, Larissa, but she can also take the blanket under the abdomen as Linda did. Now I want to show you, because it's very clear here with Larissa, I want to show you the feet action. Don't move yet, Larissa. The toes are in, the heels roll out, and if you can see on the right leg, the outer knee, the outer thigh is closer to the floor. Because we can see across to her left leg, we can see the inner knee is slightly up. Now I want you to just move your right leg incorrectly, Larissa. Quite often we show this pose and we see that, and it's completely wrong. The pelvis is in the wrong direction, the leg bone in the pelvis, and it pinches the back body. So turn the feet again the way they should be done. So you must see that the back thigh turns from inside out. Outer knee, outer ankle, outer foot towards the floor. So the toes are in and the heels are out. Let's move to the next screen for Edgar. So Edgar only just fits in this room. It doesn't mean you have to have your feet on the wall. But you can see now, instead of just putting the blanket crosswise, he's taken it completely up the front of the body. He's adjusted there so that the head is not falling down. But now you can see that there's a roll under the ankles. So the feet can quite often be turned inwards, as Linda and Larissa did, but it can put a strain on the knee for some people. But having a roll under the ankle in this manner means that the legs can rest more readily. And the back thigh should still turn from inside out. So we need to find a softness in the buttocks. Just let your legs completely release and allow the buttock region to soften completely. And then if we come to Lorraine, you'll see Lorraine now has got lots of support. She's got a body on some props there, blanket supported. Some people can't take their arms in front, so she's got some supports for the arms, and she's also done a roll separately, one for each ankle. So any of these props are available to you. The idea, now while we're watching Lorraine, just stay watching her for a moment. You can see the breath, because she's in a light colored top there. You can see the breath moving in the back body. You can see how this facilitates the breath in the back, long back chest region, which you don't get when you're lying on your back. We do get access to the front body, but for this virus, it seems that a lot of people are benefiting from the back area having space. So now we're going to leave these four in their positions. They've worked very hard for you today. So the screen is coming off them, and we're going to go to all of you now. And although I haven't been on gallery view throughout, now I'm going to just have a quick look at you all. So bring yourself 5 full minutes. We're having 5 minutes now for you to get whatever props would work for you. And of course, it depends what you've got nearby. You might have only a blanket. So see if you can line the floor with a blanket for your head. You might have all of those bolsters and blankets that Lorraine was demonstrating with, in which case you can also take whatever you need. See that you have the space. When you lie down, don't just lie there and think it's done. No, when you lie down, you lengthen forward from the front groin region. So there's an elongation. Those of you using a bolster, don't let your whole thigh fall backwards. It's got to be on. It's fine, Lynn, you're going all right. The thigh touches the bolster and it rolls the thighs inwards, but you don't want your thighs hanging backwards because the front body has to extend forwards. For those people who find it's a problem with the head supported in front, it's fine. Let the head go to the side. But try and remind yourself that you also have to have the head to the other side. And for those who are not able to do this, who knows what your problems are? Maybe lying on your front is not an issue. Then stay with the normal supine and take whatever support you need, something under your knees, a chair under your legs. But this is your chance now to do a shavasana in the body, but also a shavasana in the brain, because even though you haven't done a lot of practice with us this morning, there's a lot of thinking, and I guess some of you might have been writing even. I can see notepads and pens around. So there's a lot of thinking, a lot of work being going on. Take this time to be quiet in the pose. If it doesn't feel right after a minute or so, you can change it, but don't keep changing. Just change it till it feels right, and then let go. So in your shavasana, you need to feel as though you are releasing your body into the earth beneath. It should be a comfortable pose so that you can stay in it. Ideally, if you're in a recovery from an illness, you'd want to be there 10 minutes or more. But for those people who struggle with staying in one position for a long time, then whatever is your timing. Watch out that there's no pressure on the chest region, although the chest is supported now for most of you. Watch out that it's not an undue pressure. You have to see that the diaphragm expands from the lower sternum to the sides. So if you didn't do that on the way down, the next time you do this pose, think about it. You go forward from the front pelvis towards the ribs, but then you have to widen the diaphragm to the sides. Get your arms into a position where there is a freedom at the neck, so that the shoulders should not be hooked up towards your neck region. The shoulders have to still be away from the ears. And though Lorraine showed with the arms down by the sides, she didn't tuck them in tight to the body. So see that the arms, there's a space. The armpit region should also have some freedom there. Once you've found a comfortable position and your head is comfortable, stay there. Let the brain become quiet. Let your attention go to watch the breath. As we started the class, watching the breath. So again, watch the breath. When we started the class, we were doing arm movements, trikonasana. We were finding out where the breath moves in the body, how different movements change where the breath moves. Now in this position, watch, observe. Don't try moving anymore, but be the observer. Stay aware of the breath. Completely let go. Now prepare to come out of the pose. Now the thing is, when you're on your front, you don't come up onto your hands and knees. What you need to do is bend your knees towards the side, so you roll onto your right side. So you'll need to tuck your right arm underneath you, press with your left side, and then roll yourself onto your right side, knees towards you. And then after a moment there on the side, you can come up in the way we normally do, left hand on the floor, lifting your shoulders before the head. Again, come up to sitting. We just have a few moments to really tie together what it is we've been doing today. I've got one more little exercise for you to try. So bring yourself up and sit either on your bolster, sit cross-legged, sit on a chair if you want to. And just a couple of further notes here. So the first note then is we have lung problems with this virus. So what we might think is that pranayama is going to solve it. But the thing is, pranayama may well be contraindicated when the lungs are in a vulnerable position. In the same way that you don't start your yoga practice when you're a beginner, you don't start with pranayama. You build the body up first. You build up the systems of the body till the pranayama can work without harm, without damage. So definitely Ujjayi pranayama is going to be too strong. And an important point, if you're trying any breathing technique and you start to cough, it's too soon. It's too soon. You must not do. You have to build up the practice with what we've been doing, watching the breath, seeing where the breath moves, moving the body to move the breath. But what is recommended is when you do start working with the breath again, that we start with Viloma. Now, I'm not going to teach you Viloma. I'm going to give you a little exercise just so that you can feel this. So wherever you are, please understand, like the beginning of this session, we did an exercise which was not for the corona recovering patients. It was for you to feel and understand. Similarly, this part is for you to feel and understand. So wherever you are, sit yourself up straight, see that the chest is open. You can bring the head down so that you've got, we're not going for the full pranayama, but I just want you to take one Ujjayi deep inhalation, exhalation, and just observe the body. If you're compromised with lung issues, don't do. So exhale completely and a long, slow, deep inhalation. When you reach the top of your breath, a long, slow, deep exhalation. And then raise your head and stop. That's all you're doing. You can hear the breath. The breath is a little aggressive on lungs that are weakened. So the next little exercise we'll do is, well, what happens if instead of doing an Ujjayi breath, we do a Viloma? But I want you to do, you can watch me for a moment. You're going to do the Viloma, three breaths, it's 2 pauses and a pause at the top. That's the first round. And then the second round is where you're going to do lots of small breaths with pauses. I don't know what you'll be able to see, but let's just have a look. So, first of all, exhale. I'm doing Viloma with just, I'll use my hand. This is a pause. So, exhale. I exhaled in 1. Now, instead of that, I won't use my hand because it's a bit vigorous, but here, what I'll be doing is I'll do inhale, pause, in. It's what we would say, it's like sipping the breath. So your Ujjayi is like downing in 1. The Ujjayi with 3 stages, it's almost like you take a gulp. I mean, you're not gulping the breath, but I'm just making this as like a drink. This is like a sip. So we'd exhale. I probably did 7 or 8 small in-breaths. I didn't count them. I want you to try this now. It's just for you to get a feel for how this viloma breath is really soft when you take more pauses. When we're taught this in pranayama classes, we're often taught just 2 or 3 pauses because we're learning technique. So first of all, sit up, and I want you to do, you can do in your own timing, exhale, viloma, that's 3, in-breath pause, in-breath pause, in-breath pause. Feel how it is on the body. When you finish those in-breaths, you can exhale, take a few normal breaths. And now, how many sips you take is up to you. So just go, exhale, and then inhale, pause, several little ones. Not going fast, you're not trying to see how many you can do. It's just be alert, be aware. And when you've finished, exhale. When you've done that, raise the head. There isn't time for us to do more of this. It was just a little exercise for you to try. So when you're ready to come back to your pranayama, then your pranayama should start with viloma, soft viloma. If there's a fever, don't practice, go to bed. If you're not well, you need to rest first. There is no hurry, go slow. Weakness and fatigue is a huge factor in how you feel in the recovery phase from this virus. So be patient and don't let the practice make you tired. The practice should support you, not make you tired. You have to listen to your body and observe your symptoms. And if you're working with a student, ask them about their symptoms. It's the symptoms that should tell you how to proceed. So the practice we've shown today, yes, we put it in an order, but it's not necessarily that you've got to follow the order. You follow what is right for the symptoms and for the student. We're still finding out a lot about this coronavirus and we don't know the long-term effects. There may be lung damage, scar tissue, there may be effects like chronic fatigue. We don't know what is going to be left over. And so continue to observe those symptoms for a while. If you go too fast, you can have a relapse. And then you're back to starting again from building up. There are some indications, we believe, that some people might get stiffness in their joints or similar problems. We don't know yet whether that is, directly from the virus, but watch out. And everybody who's had this will have to build up their immune system. Yoga practice generally works on your immune system, but when you're in times of illness, then you have to pay particular attention to how you work. And I'm going to just say 3 things that Abhijata mentioned when a student asked her about practicing with the coronavirus. And she said, first, what are the symptoms? How you work will depend on that. Second, which are the associated areas that are affected? These areas have to be addressed too. So for instance, I said earlier, if your head is too heavy and you can't do Adho Mukha Svanasana, then do the front body supported Uttanasana. You have to work on the affected areas and address those. And the immune response has to support the system. So be patient, she said, go slow to recover, don't get tired and don't be in a hurry. We're still learning. So that really brings us to the end of this. I wanted just to finalize by saying, if you want advice about this or any other problem that you might face with your students, the first port of call is to go to the senior teacher or therapy teacher in your area. And that you can, if you're not sure how to find them, if you go on the IYUK website, search for a teacher, there is an option to look for a therapy teacher. So you can find the teachers in your area, and that's your first port of call to see what help they can give you. And if those teachers cannot, they will then come to the therapy committee to see if we can give more help. And you have to be patient with us because we're also learning. We don't know, we don't have the answers. I'm new on this committee, so I'm learning a lot. But that really would be the way that you would go. Now, in terms of this program, the recordings from this, yes, it's being recorded. Please do not start emailing Uday and asking him for a recording. Decisions about that have not yet been made. And there will have to be decisions between the committee and the board as to what happens to this recording. And you will be told, but please don't, we don't want hundreds of you emailing Uday. His picture on the screen right now, he's looking quite calm. we won't be looking like that if we all start emailing him. But one of the things we will do is the notes from this will be written up in some format and will be shared. So there'll be a message through the IY UK at some point as to where you can find the notes from this. But of course, we can't share everything, all the pictures as they were, because they were live. But certainly there will be something. There will be something for you to anchor onto down the line. That's it from me, with a reminder of the AGM this afternoon. So I'm going to hand you back to Uday now. And first, just to thank you all for being here, for being concerned to know about this. And of course, huge thanks to Uday and Sonali for hosting us on this whole weekend. And personally for me, thank you to all those teachers that we contacted about this, the teachers I mentioned and those who were unnamed. It was so valuable in getting this ready for you. Thank you.
I would just take a moment before others express their feelings. Everyone has been thanking us, me and Sonali, for arranging this, but I must be honest and I must tell, it's all the teachers, the association committee members who have really helped and supported this event, and that's how it has become the kind of success I feel it has. So it's definitely all wonderful teachers. We had yesterday the fantastic therapy team who presented this today. And I really want to make a mention of the meticulous planning that has gone behind the session this morning. I've received the entire program plan about how it is going stepwise, and that has helped me make all those switches in between. So Sheila, the effort has been fantastic. I was really, how do I put it? Like really pleasantly surprised, or I appreciate that effort. I wish I can be that particular and meticulous with my work. So
we'll work on that, Uday. But also thank you to the therapy team, the 4 of you that were presenting today and the 2 that were not able to be on the screen today. They've been fabulous. Thank you all so much.
The whole therapy team, fantastic work. And thank you everyone, those who have joined in, and thank you for your donations as well. So if we've crossed already £30,000, which is great. And yes, we'll leave the link open. Those who wish to still donate, those who wish to encourage others to donate, please feel free to do so. We will leave the link open for a bit more time. And thank you once again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.